think we're live. Yes. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so I have a little bit of time until my next meeting. I want to sort of like get started on this new project. It's going to be a cybernetic robo arm. I've collected here some precedents of work, some references, and I have laid them on what is it called, PureRef. And I'm sort of like studying a little bit right now the way that I'm going to go on about creating this arm. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm gonna resize my references and put them on the other screen. I also have some references of like human anatomy, because I think it's important to look at these shapes in order to create things that make more or less sense, you know? Like, look how beautiful all these shapes are, and you'll see like that there is a lot of similarities between these shapes and the way our body is actually constructed. And having references is very important for that matter. Okay, I'm gonna move them up here. And I'm gonna start by removing the initial cube. And I'm going to create a human using a human generator. Generate new human. This is just for me to have the reference for the arm. I'm gonna make it muscular. There we go. And then I'm gonna finish the creation phase. Don't really need to go deeper into details with this. What I'll do, I'll just pose this guy in a sort of like natural way. There we go. And then I'm gonna first of all remove the hair. Don't know if you can see this. Yeah, there you go. And then I'm gonna apply the armature. Say apply. Oh, in order for me to apply the armature, I need to remove the shape keys, which are all here. So I'm just gonna go through the whole thing and remove the shapes, and then I'm gonna say apply. So now I have the base mesh. I can, if I actually delete the armature, as you can see now, I can get rid of it, and I'm gonna select my geometry and I'm gonna select with 3 this loop and then this loop. I'm gonna say delete faces, and then I'm gonna select the arm, Control I to invert, delete all the rest. I should be left, yeah, with the mouth and the eyes, which I don't need. And now I have the arm as a sort of like base geometry that I can use to start sculpting. I'm also gonna remove all the materials because I don't need them. And for the sake of it, I'm gonna also recenter. Let me use the shortcut viewer. Where do I find it? There we go. So now I have it down here. And I'll move the pivot to this part. There you go. Great. So now I can start doing a little bit of sculpting. Let's switch to sculpting. Now the cool thing of me working on one single object is that I don't really need to worry about the symmetry, because you know it's going to be a single object that then I can sort of like you know, mirror on the other side. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to call this arm, and I'm going to make a copy. I'm also gonna get this out of the way. I don't need the hierarchy and all. All this can also be deleted. There we go. So this is going to be my backup. I'm gonna deactivate it, and then I'm gonna work on the actual arm. I'm also going to expand my brushes just to see the names, because I never remember them. And that's it. I'm gonna start sculpting, looking at some of these references. Now, the one reference that I like is this one. I like the mechanical elements. What I don't like is the fact that maybe the geometry is a little bit too horizontal. I like how organic this is. It's amazing design. I also like though these really defined angles. So I guess I'm gonna try and achieve something in between. How long do we have? Probably I have a little bit less than an hour to model, but it's okay. We'll see how far we get. Okay, so I'm gonna start with some clay strips. Let's see what happens if I... First of all, let me... Blender is already starting to lag a little bit. Sculpting, there you go. Shift R. I'm gonna try and remesh this a little bit. Then Control R. Whoops. What is happening here? Let me see if I can put a remesh modifier. Ooh, what is happening? Okay, so this is not liking it for some reason. So let me see what happens if I start sculpting straight away on this. Plus, there you go. Okay, then let's try another approach. I'm gonna put a subdivision surface on this. I'm gonna erase the subdivisions. For some reason, Blender is lagging a lot today. There you go. And then I'm gonna say apply. Let me go into layout. And then again in sculpting. There you go. So now I should have a little bit more geometry, yes, to work with. Good. So I'm gonna start sculpting a little bit of this geometry as I see it on the shoulder, trying to give it a little bit of this. I've actually not tested this video before starting, so you know, you'll see me troubleshooting and finding solutions to problems in real time. I hope that there won't be any problems, but you know, if there are, you'll see me cowboying around. Like for instance, the issue of the remeshing. This is something that we'll definitely have to get to at a certain point. There you go. So I start to define this first shape. It's okay for now. It looks like Play-Doh. Good. Maybe what I want to do now, I want to come down with another element down here. Maybe I make it a little bit smaller. There we go. And I'll leave a little bit of space here to put some details in between later on. So I'm gonna start masking a little bit these areas here. Doesn't have to be precise. Control I to invert the mask, and then I'm gonna move it to somewhere like in that direction, this direction, so to get a little bit of these shapes already a little bit more defined, you see. Maybe I also want to scale it a little bit inside. I'm gonna click Shift to make it go easier. Great. So Alt M to clear the mask, and so I start to get this first shape here. I'm gonna select with 1 the first brush, and actually let me see, if I go to smooth I can set up the pressure to 0.184, and then I can just tap on some of the places to sort of like start smoothing the geometry. Good. So I'm gonna have this element coming down there, and it's going to be, yeah, it's okay for now. Okay, so now I want to have some strips that go sort of like across to form a bicep of some sort. F to make it smaller, and I'm still using the clay brush. I like it because it gives this, you know, wide flat strips, which I think are relatively easy to manage. There you go. Okay, let me look at some references. Okay, and so now another thing that we can do is to start extracting details from, say, the bicep and bringing them up a little bit. Sorry, the tricep, which is the part at the back. Let's see if I can do it with a grab brush. F to make it bigger. There we go. Then with the snake, I'm gonna try and move this element a little bit at the back. And with the grab, I'm going to sort of like find how can we get this to look a little bit better. Yes, we'll make it go in there. There we go. F to make this a little bit smaller. There we go. And then I can simply draw some geometry here. And for now, I'll leave it like this. It's okay. I'll get back to it later. Great. So now a thing that I want to do is to sort of like have this element as a shell of some sort. So I'm gonna take the clay brush, sort of like push this geometry a little bit like this. So that it looks like it could encapsulate something below. There we go. And then maybe with the control, I can do a little bit of digging around it. So to start separating these elements. And it's okay if this is not going to come out good, you know, like this is, I'm doing this without rehearsing or without trying anything specifically. So you need to allow yourself to make things that might not come out that good. Trust me, I've done a lot of them in my life. Good. So I like this because it's starting to get a nice shape. And I'm looking at the references in case you're wondering why I look on the other side. Actually, can you see my face? Yes, okay. Okay, so we'll try and keep this element tiny, meaning like the geometry is going to There you go. I'm gonna do a little bit of digging around this area. There you go. The other day somebody asked me how I managed to sculpt the element, the element, not the element, on Blender. Because sculpting, sculpting in Blender, it's actually good. Some people say it's not as good as, say, what is it called, ZBrush. I've used a little bit of ZBrush in the past, and I have to say that with Blender I'm having a lot more fun. It's not industry standard, I know that, but it's still very good. Like, if I can manage to do things that, I could not do in other software, then I'm gonna try and push it as much as I can, right? So this is a rough shape for what I think it's going to be the forearm, and the forearm I would like to divide into top and bottom. And so I'm going to have sort of like a top element here and a bottom element. And then I'm gonna scrape this part in the middle. There we go. Give it a little bit more body. And so we have a upper part, lower part, and I'll do the same also here. So it will be our upper part, the lower part, and then this part could also have sort of like funky shape. There we go. So this is starting to take shape. I gotta do something about this. Maybe I'll cut it later. It'll look better. I don't know. What time is it? Okay, I got another 30 minutes. Let me take a look at the details here. Let me try, because like I'm spending a lot of time redoing this geometry, but if I cannot remesh it, so first of all let me save it, and I'll create a brand new folder for this. I'm gonna call it cyber arm, and then I'm gonna call this solo 1. Good. So let me go into the remesh. First of all, There should be a way to switch. Let me Google it. Switch to object mode in Blender sculpting. Alt Q, let's see. Alt Q. No. Sculpt mode. Okay, I'll just click it. It's okay. What did I want to do? Oh, I wanted to check if I can actually remesh this, but what I want to do is apply the scale, because maybe this has something to do with it. And then I'll go back to my sculpt mode, and with my arm selected, I'll say remesh. Look at this. Why is this happening? Control Z. Is there a way for me to transform now this to... Maybe it's because of the geometry data. Clear custom split normals data. Let's see if that fixes it. Remesh, remesh. Still not fixed it. Let's see. What if I put a remesh? No, we tried it before, it didn't work. Smooth. And maybe I'll leave it like this. 8 subdivisions, maybe it's a little bit too much. Let me go back. I'll leave it to 8 and then say apply. And so now I'm guessing that if I do remesh this thing, yes, now it's working. Okay, obviously I'll have to make it a little bit more dense, but I got it to work. So yeah, in case you're having the same issue, don't forget that that's how you do it. Okay, so now what I want to do, I want to start adding sort of like some more hard edge surfaces or angles, if that makes any sense. Like for instance, this is quite organic going down that way, which is nice. But say that I have a line here that breaks this curvature, and then I can have this element almost like if it was triangular. So the other time I started to work with the crease brush, I'm gonna switch this to plus, and I'm going to in the stroke switch to the stabilized stroke, so that I can make a line that is a little bit more straight. There you go. Maybe a little bit too much. So the stabilized stroke, I'm gonna lower it, and I'm gonna switch the strength to something a little bit higher. This is nice. And so I can start defining this part as a sort of like piece of geometry where the angle changes, right? Don't worry about this geometry not being perfect, because like later on when we're gonna retopologize and change everything, we're gonna find a solution to it. Am I still okay? Great. So in order for me to start changing this angle, I'm gonna need sort of like a brush that allows me to clean this up. Is it the scrape that I was using the other time? Let's see. Yeah, kinda. So Control Z to undo this. Let's try it again. Nice, okay. I'm gonna start working my way down to a more sort of like squared face. And then I can use things like the clay or clay strips to build up a little bit of that geometry. Okay, and when I do this, you can see it you know, grows a lot in volume, but then I can go back to my scrape brush, F to make it bigger, and sort of like clean it up. There you go. So I start to get a little bit of an angle here. Maybe another thing that I can do is to just grab a grab brush and really bring this where I want it. There we go. Nice. And now I can go back to my what was crease? There you go. F to make it a little bit smaller. And just crease this part again. So you can see now I start to get this nice shape. And then from here I'm gonna go down sort of like straight. Let me grab the smooth brush, F to make it bigger. So the smooth brush at the moment has a strength of 0.18, which is just for me to clean up slightly. I don't work with pressure sensitivity because, I don't know, my hands simply don't work that way. So I find it easier to keep the stroke all the time more or less the same. And then I can work with the pressure of the brush. Great. So now I'm gonna again crease this area, F to make my stroke smaller. I'm gonna start from here. Oh, I screwed that up, didn't I? Okay, let me start first of all from here. Nice. Maybe. Good. Maybe I can also do this side here. So you see, I start to get a little bit better definition here. Great. So now I'm gonna do the same down there. Should I keep it separate? Maybe one thing that I could do is dig a little bit. Whoops. Let me stabilize also this stroke. There we go. So now I have a little bit more definition there. Maybe put another crease here. With a little bit less pressure. Nice. And now I'm gonna smooth it a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to do with this part here yet. I'll have to think about it. But I'm liking the fact that, you know, this is coming like this. Great. Let me put some meat over here. Maybe let me use just the clay. There we go. Great. And maybe a little bit more in that side. Let me also stabilize the stroke for this. So that at least it follows the profile a little bit better. There we go. Great. And now I'm gonna scrape it. I just digested. I hope that this didn't come through. So there you go. I'm gonna crease this a little bit more. Whoops, where are you? There we go. Actually, the camera I'm not gonna need, so I'm gonna delete the camera. Great, so this is taking shape, as you can see. Let me start defining also this part of the geometry with a crease. This is cool. And you see, as I sculpt, I start to see like little elements that allow me to use some opportunities, you know, like for instance, in this element here, I have sort of like a casing, so to say, that I can sculpt a little bit better, where then I can sort of like put the bicep inside, right? And so I start to give a little bit more definition to this element, because then, you know, here I could put like a screw or a bolt or something like this. There you go. And it's nice because it follows more or less the anatomy of the arm that I've used in the very beginning. There you go. So let me just bring this down here, and for the sake of the argument, I'm going to sort of like cut this part down here so that I know that that element stops right there. Let me give it another cut. There we go. And then for the time being, I'm gonna go to my object mode and then Shift A. I'm gonna drop a cylinder. Keep it high poly, it doesn't really matter. G to move it. R to rotate it, R to rotate it, S to scale it, G to move it, G to move it, G to move it, I'm moving it, R, G to move it, R to rotate it. Oh my god, I've got the sudden crave to eat a burger. This is the problem with like focusing only on work. Well, my problem, not everybody's problem. I get fucking hungry. Okay. Oh, this is a language that it's not for kids. I apologize if any kid is watching. Great, so now I have sort of like a screw there, which I deformed in the wrong direction, but that's okay. So I have a screw. Let me apply the scale, and then also like, let me give it a little bit of subdivision, and then I'm gonna join this, and theoretically, if now I go to, let me see. Oh, I'm not in sculpt mode. There we go. This is a different set of geometry. So what I have to do is face set, and then face set from visible. Yeah, there you go. So I removed the face set, and now I can say Control Z. Sorry, what is this now? Got a new face set. Shift R to make this smaller, and then remesh. There you go. So now this is part of the geometry. It's been remeshed, and I have a little bit of detail there. And as you can see, like the arm starts to get a little bit more defined. Okay, so at this point, this element, I would say, I'm gonna like really just put some strips of clay here. Stabilize stroke clay, yeah, there we go. And make it just one single element. And maybe this line can come up sort of like here. Something like that. So this will give me some opportunities later on to build, I don't know, little technical pieces or whatever. There you go. So gonna keep building down. There we go. Maybe I could have another element like that one, but it's okay. We don't really need it for now. Oops, lagging. Let me go to layout, sculpting again, fixed. Great. Okay, so I have that piece. This is defined. Let me look at some references to see how this is done in other cases. Great, so these pieces are very nice. Now what I want to have sort of like this element that covers the tricep to be also separated, and so I'm gonna draw it with a crease, F to make this smaller, and I'm gonna start defining this element plus this element. There you go. And then this element here. Maybe that's not the nicest shape. No, actually I like it. I like it. I think it's I think it can work. And then I'll have this element coming that way. So as you can see, this is one panel. There we go. And maybe this panel can come around this way. I like how this is starting to get some definition. Great. So maybe I'll do a little bit of digging in the other direction here and here, and then in this direction. Great. So now I have this element going down that way, this element going up this way. Maybe I want to have this creased as well. There we go. And maybe this element can come this way. So that this also get better definition. Oh, somebody's watching and you pressed like. I'm so appreciative of that. Who are you? Introduce yourself. Say hi. You have no idea how much this is helpful and fulfilling in a way. Does that make sense? Anyway, just if you're tuning in now, I'm looking at references on this page, and I have some anatomy references with all the muscles, the deltoid, the testicle, teres major, the subscribe, the tracularis, triceps, brachialis, extensor, abductor, flexor, all the muscles that you need, they're there. And I'm looking also at pictures of other sculpts, other arms, to sort of like see how other designers solved issues, design issues, all these nice little details. I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of days ago, and he said, I love your designs, but for film and games, which is what I'm trying to get to do right now, he told me you lack details, so you have to put more details in your work. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm putting a lot more details. Let's see if I can actually do it. Okay, so I have this element. Now here, most likely what's gonna happen is that I'm going to have another plate, and this plate is going to have maybe some, I don't know, I'm talking out loud. I'm talking now, loud. Line. Great. So let me draw a line here and a line here. The hand, this will be something that we will have to tackle with a separate video. What time is it? Oof, I only have like 15 minutes. Okay. Great, so now I have a panel here, and most likely there's going to be another panel there. So I'm gonna try and draw this as defined as I possibly can. There we go. Now, I could remesh this, you know, but I got taught by the great Gennaro Esposito, a really good friend and great 3D modeler, artist. He's sort of like a supervisor in quite a few companies. I think he's based in Germany right now, but he's an amazing artist. And he told me, you know, always maximize the use of the low poly as much as you can, although this is not low poly, but you know, before you remesh anything, always wait to make sure that you get the most out of every single polygon that you have available. And the remeshing, wait a little bit for the remeshing. Now you'll see me like going around quite a bit aimlessly, and that's because, you know, like, again, I don't really have an idea of what it is that I'm doing, so I do have to take a little bit of time to sort of like think. And that's not something that I would recommend other people doing, because you need to have a plan all the time. In life, you need to have a plan. But yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. 4 people watching. Jeez, man. Am I about to become viral? Or am I going to get a virus? Huh. 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 With my luck, I'm about to get a virus. That's what it is. And there you go. So, you know, going back to what it is that I'm doing here, I'm just trying to add some detail to some of the things that I'm doing. This is a cyber arm that I'm designing. I keep getting notifications on my phone, but then the notifications are hidden. Whoa, what is happening? Okay, yes, I do have that element there, this element here. Okay, then I'm gonna draw another element there. Then another one here. This is just for me to block out sort of like the volumes and see in which direction these are going. I'm gonna take the clay and sort of like scrap a little bit of this geometry because I don't really need it. Here I could make sort of like, I could put some cables maybe, right? Because cables make everything more interesting. Like, you can make a model just out of cables and it will look great. It will look great. Okay, so the hand. I already have to start thinking about how this is going to meet the hand. Okay, so let me put a crease here. And I'm gonna smooth all these elements. Don't worry, they're not gonna stay like this. This is the beautiful thing about like sculpting in general, is that, you know, like, you don't have to do a lot of thinking ahead. At least that's what I'm experiencing myself. You can get away with a lot of like indecisions and minor mistakes just by, you know, brushing things. Like this one, for instance, this I'm really like winging it, you know. you go. So this is going to be an opening of some sort. Maybe I'll just put a clay strip, and I'm gonna use the line because I need to have a little bit more meat here. There we go. Great. And now I can crease it. Nice. Okay. So for now, this is like, you see, this could also be, this could be a cable already. Maybe I'll just model it as a cable. I take the normal draw brush and I give it this cable look. It's okay if it's not perfect. We'll get to it later. Maybe I'll make another cable on the side. There you go. And the cables go all in the same direction. The other day I was watching a stream from a Canadian artist, I think, Chaos, what is it called? Chaos, same, I have it on Instagram, hold on. These guys, they do the craziest things, it's unbelievable. Chaos Masons. Look how good the stuff that they do is. And so I was watching a stream of how they create this kind of stuff. Crazy the amount of details and the workflow that they use, and that really made me think, oh my god, I really should learn what is it called? ZBrush. Anyway, let me go back to my 3 people watching. Are you the same people as before? Say hi, leave me a message. Let me know that you're doing good. Let me know that you're surviving this. Okay, let me look at the references a little bit more. Okay, one thing that I want to do is start to smooth this area here. Don't have a lot of time. Let me start smoothing this area a little bit. Then maybe another thing that I'll do is scrape it. But smoothing is the first thing. So it looks way too organic. And maybe this part here, this could be like sort of a single piece that I can sculpt. Another thing that I want to do, I want to go into object mode. Put a cylinder. Scale it down. Put it up here. Put it up here. Scale it down. Move it in that direction. R. Scale. G to move. G to move. There we go. And then move it somewhere there. I think this is good enough for now. Maybe move it in that direction. G in that direction. Scale and then Control B to add a little bit of definition so that you see you have sort of like a valve or whatever that you can sort of like plug into the arm and recharge. Maybe it's a hydraulic arm, right? Anyway, select this, select that, Control J, then I go into sculpt mode. Now I have different face sets. I'll say face sets from visible so that they all get merged, and then I say Control R, no, sorry, Control Z, face set from visible, Shift R to sort of like make this a little bit smaller, and then Control R to remesh. Great. So now we have some details. We still have the arm looking good, in my opinion. I know you might be looking at this and be like, it could be better. And I agree with you. You're right. You're totally right. Hi, Manuel. How are you? And yes, you are right by saying something that I'm just thinking that maybe you did not think. I'm alone, guys. I'm alone. I feel lonely. Right now I feel lonely, I have to say. Okay, crease. F, I put this down. And so I'm gonna try and make a hole here. And maybe this element can come as its own element, you see? You see what I mean? There you go. So this could be one element. And what I'll do... Nice to hear, man. Thanks for tuning in on this early... Well, it's not that early. Tuesday. Let me change to layout, sculpting again, because it was lagging a little bit. And then what I'll do is that I'll mask this part. As you can see, it's not a great masking exercise. It's just like very rough. Just, you know, to get the geometry selected. Select the geometry, select it, mask it, select it, mask it, mask it, select it, select it, mask it, mask it, select it, select it, mask it. Great. So Control I to invert, and then I go into my move. I'll say sculpt set pivot to mask border, and then I can move this element in that direction. Whoops. Where are we? There you go. And then Alt M to clear the mask. So now I have that element that it's sticking out. No worries, you know, like I'm sort of like learning. These are relatively new things also for me. So, you know, the more the better, the more fun we can have, you know. So I got this element set up. I don't know what this is. Maybe it could be a place where cables come in. Maybe it's a place where we can have sort of like a tinier carter. I don't know, man. I don't know. Whoops. Am I doing something wrong here? Sculpt mode. Object mode. There you go. Sculpt mode. Crease. So, what if I do crease here? Do we see anything? Did I push any? I'm not seeing anything. Okay, let me remesh, because at this point I think that it deserves a remesh. Nice. And then I'm gonna... Okay, so it just needed to be remeshed. So now I have this little piece here, you know, which is like coming out that way. Now, I don't know if I should... let me see some references. No, actually this could be this way. It can stay this way. It's not a big deal. But we do need to define how this forearm is going to look like. Okay, let me crease this area here. And you see, with this crease, I can sort of like sharpen some of these edges, so to make it look more like a geometrically perfect surface, right? There we go. Great. So I have this element here, this other element here. I do feel like there should be sort of like a continuation here. You see, like of these panels. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And this could be also like this. So, you know, this is one panel. This is another panel. One element, and it could have like some screws or something. We'll have to see later. Good. Goody, goody, goody. Goody, 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 goody. Goody, 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 goody. Okay, I like this, I like that. This part maybe. This part maybe will have some... Let's give it some screws. Screws always make things better. Okay, let's go into object mode. Oh shit, I'm running late. Object mode, how do I put my cursor? I actually cannot do it. Okay, it doesn't matter. Shift A. Let me put a cylinder. There we go. Make it smaller, smaller, and smaller. And then I'll just rotate this until I find a nice position for it. G to move, G to move, R to rotate, G to move, and then Shift D, R to rotate, G to move, G to move. So now we have 2 screws there, which I think look cool. R to rotate. Maybe I'll scale them together. There you go. This one I'll rotate a little bit more. So they come down that way, you see? And then I'm gonna select the top faces, Control B, to give them a little bit more definition. Then I select this element, Control J, go back into sculpt mode. It's okay, I can leave the different sets and then do a remesh so that these become part of the geometry. So as you can see, you know, like I'm adding a lot more details to the initial design. Some things get lost sometimes when you do some remeshing. It's okay, it's not a big deal. I'm gonna crease this element all the way up here. And then with the clay brush, I'm simply gonna keep digging. All these elements that I dig down here can actually be, you know, soft tissue or something. Great. Here what I want to do, I want to have a sort of like a plaque or something. Let's see. Okay, I really gotta go. I gotta wrap this up because I need to get ready for something else. There we go. Nice. I like that. Okay, this is coming out. This is coming along the better than I was hoping. Definitely when I started, I did not really have an idea how I wanted this to go. But it's looking good so far. I'm gonna stop the stream because I have to go somewhere. But it was a pleasure. Thanks a lot for everyone that was watching, that you know, tuned in. And a lot of love, and we'll talk soon. Follow your dreams, follow the cheese.